So you need to do a system recovery of your computer. But how do you go about doing that? In this video, we're going to look at the various methods you can use to access the system recovery feature of your computer and what certain choices in the recovery manager will do what. Now, there's maybe a couple reasons why you may be doing a system recovery. You may have a problem with Windows software. It may have crashed from missing files or something like that. You may be upgrading hardware on the computer, for instance the hard drive, like putting in a solid state drive, in which you'll have to do a recovery process. There's also instances where you may be getting rid of the computer. For instance, you may be selling it off and you need to do a system recovery to bring it back to its out-of-box factory state. So again, that's a couple reasons why you may be doing this. So, to access it, there's a couple different methods you can do. Some computers, you have to press something like the escape key or the enter key when it's booting up. Other times you may have to press one of the function keys like F11. And not all computers are going to tell you this when it starts up. It'll usually have text right along the bottom here. And it usually may say that, it may not tell you that. And most of the times, newer computers, they don't tell you this. And boot up, you kind of have to figure it out. Now, most modern computers nowadays use the repair your computer selection from the F8 key menu of Windows. And the F8 menu is when the computer is first turned on and you repeatedly hit the F8 key, you can access a menu selection from Windows there that has different options, and this includes booting into safe mode and booting into the command prompt, doing last known good configuration. A couple of different options, but again, that's where the repair your computer option is, and that's generally where you're going to find your computer's recovery option nowadays. Older computers, again, you had to press a specific key when it booted up to access the system recovery, and in even older computers, you were given recovery disks with it that you used because there was no hard drive based recovery already built in. That's what most of your computers nowadays use, is built-in HDD recovery. They generally don't include recovery disks with computers now because it saves on the cost of the computer when you get it, but also you can create your own recovery disk based off the hard drive image. And they usually tell you that when you first boot up your computer a couple of times with some kind of reminder. And you need to do that, especially if you're going to change out something like the hard drive. You got to have those physical recovery disks. So anyway, so I'm going to turn the computer on, and I'm going to hit the F8 key. And I'm going to keep doing this multiple times because I want to make sure I bring up the F8 selection menu. There it is. And it'll give you several kinds of options like it's showing here, and the one that I want is the repair your computer option. Of course, you got different options that you can choose from here that you want for Windows, but we're going to use the repair your computer. And that's automatically going to load up files off the computer. My camera is not really liking the focus here. Hopefully it'll clear up when the recovery manager opens. Because what it has to do, it has to load up files off the recovery, and it boots up into a recovery environment, which is kind of like a really light version of Windows, as you can kind of see here. For those of you in the tech world there, this is known as the Windows pre-installation environment, or WinPE, as it's called. You can actually download this and make your own Windows pre-installation environment and put everything on a disk, basically make your own recovery boot disk with your own custom software. That's what some people like to do, and you can actually download that. Anyway, now this is ASUS here, and this is how their recovery setup works. HP and Lenovo, a couple of others, they all have different methods about how the recovery managers function. But the ASUS one here requires me to choose my language. It gives me some warnings about, that I'm going to lose all the data on the hard drive and a couple of other things. And then when I get to the selection options, and there's 3 that ASUS give me here. I can recover Windows to the first partition. Now, the way this computer is set up, there's 2 independent partitions on the hard drive. This has a single hard drive in it, but it's been partitioned with 2 separate partitions on it. One is for the operating system, another one is for data, which kind of acts as a backup. That's why there is multiple selections here. I can recover Windows to the first partition so that Windows, that partition gets cleared out, but the second partition that I have data on, it won't get cleared, so I don't have to worry about losing data on that. And then I could recover Windows to the entire hard drive, which means it just redoes the hard drive over, makes one partition that spans the entire capacity of the hard drive, and puts Windows on there. Or I could do the same thing, having 2 separate partitions, and it just erases both of them and restores the computer. And for this, the factory state was 2 partitions, so I'm going to do that selection again. Other manufacturers like HP, Lenovo, all of them will have different options depending on how your computer was set up from the factory. We're going to click Next. And basically it's also telling me that it's going to, again, reformat the drive and reinstall all the pre-installed software. Click Next. Then it's going to give me the confirmation of, are you sure you want to do this? Click Next. And it's automatically going to start doing the recovery process. And depending on this, it may take about an hour, average, on most modern computers nowadays to go through the complete hard drive-based recovery process. Now again, if you're doing this with recovery CDs, again, it'll take a little while, and you'll have to be physically present with the computer because you're going to need to swap out recovery disks as it goes through the recovery process. The hard drive-based recovery process I'm using right now is fully automated since it's pulling everything out of a recovery partition off the hard drive, so I don't really need to be here monitoring this.